get up, let me begin. This is TWSN. You ain't heard about us yet, well you better know now, because it's the place that it all goes down. Get up, let me begin. This is TWSN. You ain't heard about us yet, well you better know now, because it's the place that it all goes down.
Shout out Young Swift.
Thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of the Sit Down Morning Show with Malik Wright, presented by TWSN, the Right Way Sports Network. I'm your host, Malik Wright, joined by my co-host, always my main man, my best friend, 𝗦𝗢𝗢𝗏𝗪.
Yes, sir.
Dang, got a lot of stuff we got to get into today, man. But before we do, make sure you guys do us a huge favor. Give this video a like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Turn on post notifications so you guys don't miss when we go live or when we upload content. Also, drop your questions, comments down in the comment section, because there's going to be a lot that we're going to get into on today's show. I think I want to start off, Daniel. I want to start off with the NBA, if we can. Is that okay with you?
Yeah.
All right. Let's start off with the NBA. There are rumors circulating, swirling right now about Kawhi Leonard and his tenure with the LA Clippers almost coming to an end. There are members of the Clippers front office that apparently want Kawhi Leonard out. Want Kawhi Leonard out of LA. I have so many mixed emotions on that, Daniel, because it feels a little bit like trying to get from under the problem that has now been spotlighted, right? We all know what happened, like the money that was given to Kawhi Leonard under the table for ad dollars that were never actually happened, and that company also happened to be from the owners of the Clippers. I guess it's company on the side, if you will. I want to talk about this a little bit more, man, because it feels like someone is leaking this. It feels like someone is disgruntled. Now you get all these reports about what Kawhi Leonard asked the Lakers for, a bunch of crazy stuff. They're saying that, hey, Kawhi Leonard, during his free agency with the Los Angeles Lakers, he was asking for part ownership of the Lakers. He was asking for access to private jets. He was asking for the Lakers to give him a house. All stuff that just did not seem to be realistic. Including on top of that, putting the cherry right on top would be to trade for Paul George. But before I give my full take on that entire situation, Daniel, what are your thoughts on Kawhi Leonard?
Yeah, man, they got caught with their hand in the cookie jar, and I think the Clippers. There is a clear difference from where this started versus where it ended. And let me explain to you, right, what I believe. The Clippers entered this offseason feeling that they are championship contenders, right? And let me explain. I believe that before this whole drama, I believe that this team was championship contenders, right? Kawhi Leonard, James Harden, you got Zubac, who is one of the better centers in the NBA. And they went out and they had a masterful offseason, right? You went out and you added John Collins, who's one of the better, stretch bigs, a guy who's a power forward, a guy who's still relatively young at 28 years old. And you go out and you do two things to bolster your team. You add Chris Paul and Bradley Beal, two veterans of the game who you signed to just 1 to 2 year contracts. But these guys are veterans who can play up to 30 plus minutes, who can be starters, but who can also play off of the bench. So you have a team who was already extremely talented, Bogdan Bogdanović, coming off the bench, as well as adding Brook Lopez to the fold. This roster is very good. This is a team who last year they made the playoffs. This is a team who last year, albeit if it wasn't for some injuries, could have advanced far into the playoffs. And they are built on 1 to 2 year contracts. So this was the ownership saying, hey, we are going to attack this small window with James Harden, who is 36 years old, with Kawhi Leonard, who is 34 years old. And their plans are changing very quickly, because I can assure you, Malik, they were going to head into the season with this roster saying they can compete with the Rockets, saying that they can compete with these other teams. But quite frankly, they got caught with their hand in the cookie jar. And that is the biggest problem, because Malik, they entered, and this is from the business side, and this is what I believe with the Los Angeles Clippers. They entered last year with Kawhi Leonard plastered on their brand new stadium. People forget that was a huge thing. They went into a new stadium. They had, the wave, and they had the wall, and they had this whole movement for the Clippers. But who was the guy on the front billboards? It was Kawhi Leonard. So ask yourself the question, right? If you're building your franchise around this guy, why are you all of a sudden going to change your tune into saying, hey, maybe he's not our answer. Well, there's two reasons. One, maybe they don't believe he's their answer anymore. And two, maybe they realize that it is not feasible with the rumors that came out, with the allegations, with the fact that they were being, investigated about one specific player, their franchise guy, Kawhi Leonard. It makes perfect sense why at this point there are rumors about Kawhi Leonard not being the guy anymore. It makes sense because they were heading into this year with Kawhi being the guy. And as soon as it comes out that, oh my God, there's stuff going on the back end, you were feeding Kawhi money. Well, maybe he's not our franchise guy. Malik, they got caught square as day. I'm curious to see how the investigation goes. But like I said, I think that this is good for the Clippers because the truth must always come out. It always does. And for a team who I believe that it wasn't going to work entering a 2-year window with older guys, I just believe that they've got to go for the new age. They have to go out and acquire a true franchise guy. I don't believe it's going to work with Kawhi and James Harden, and sure as hell not now. So I'm just glad at this point the truth is coming out, and I'm glad when I look at the Clippers, it's something that this does not seem sustainable. So I don't necessarily know, Malik, if they're going to trade him this season, but he's on a 2-year contract. I don't believe that he sees the life of this contract in LA. And same thing with James Harden. He's got a player option next season. I think this is going to change very quickly for the Clippers.
Well, I think that I think everything that you said was extremely real and relevant. I think the only reason why you would kind of start laying the foundation for a potential Kawhi Leonard trade is if you're trying to get out from under this thing. We obviously know that it's collapsing right before their very own eyes. But what I don't think that the Steve Ballmer and the Los Angeles Clippers realize they're doing, they're really tanking the value of Kawhi Leonard. So when a team does come calling for you, one, they'll be getting a disgruntled superstar or star if you don't consider Kawhi Leonard as a superstar anymore. They'll be getting a player who's injured, can't play back-to-backs. Let's just call it what it is, right? Banged up knees. And they'll be getting a player, honestly, at this point where you really don't know how often you're going to have him truly available.
Yep.
Who's also going to want to take on that cap. To be honest with you, the Clippers are probably going to have to eat some of that, which probably is no issue for them, considering that they're able to pay players on the table, whole 9 yards, and whatnot. But for me, I think you're seeing the writing on the wall. There is no way that they go into the season on the same page. I think it'll be tough for a team right now before the season starts to trade for Kawhi Leonard, but I definitely think they're setting the foundation for what life could look like without Kawhi Leonard. Apparently from ESPN, Brian Windhorst, he says Kawhi Leonard and his camp realizes that they are no longer building this team around him.
Yep.
Well, that's interesting to me because didn't they just hand him out an extension last summer?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
I think it was last summer. If you knew you were no longer investing in this guy, if you knew you were no longer building around this guy, help me understand why you say we're going to give this guy an extension, even though he's dealt with the injuries, even though he doesn't play back-to-back, even though we've literally built teams around him and we watched them squander and fall. So you're dealing with an aging team around you. So are you building around James Harden? Are you building around 𝗕𝗏𝗡𝗍𝗏 Zubac? Who are you building around? You traded away Norman Powell, didn't they?
Yep. For John Collins.
We've been around John Collins. Like who exactly are you building around? Because what Pete puts asses in seats, especially with the new stadium that you guys got, a new arena, is James Harden, is a Kawhi Leonard, is the potential of what they can all do together. And that's the shame about all this is I think had this all not come out, I don't think we'd hear a peep.
No.
This seems like a PR slander on Kawhi Leonard. And hear me out. This is not me taking Kawhi Leonard's side, or maybe I am to a degree. I definitely think Kawhi Leonard, and I've said it, I've been on record saying this, I thought Kawhi Leonard's best move would have either been to stay with the Toronto Raptors or go to the Los Angeles Lakers. I thought those were his best moves. I mean this in the most respectful way. The Clippers are a poverty franchise.
Yeah.
They haven't won anything. They haven't done anything. They've always played little brothers to the Los Angeles Lakers. I get it. He wanted to go to LA, and it was a cool for a season. The battle of that who's the king? LeBron James, Kawhi Leonard. We find out. They remember they had that whole entire ad run and all that stuff like
LA,
that.
or like who's the king of LA?
Who's the king of LA? That's what it was. And unfortunately, here we are. And yeah, I think people are shocked by the revelation that has come forth in the coming days. But the fact of the matter is, I'm not surprised that this has panned out the way it has. I'm not surprised that Kawhi Leonard is probably going to get traded at some point this season. The question is where to?
And I've got one place.
Yeah.
Well, two things. The first thing is Kawhi Leonard. I still feel like he's a fantastic basketball player.
Sure.
Like, let me get that straight. But you cannot, in your right mind at this point, build around him as your number one guy. You can't. And that's why the Clippers put themselves in this position. Malik, I've got two things. One, in an ideal world, I feel like there is a world where LaMelo Ball is one of those guys where he's not long for the Charlotte Hornets. I don't think so. And I think in an ideal world, if they can find a way to get LaMelo Ball in the Clippers, I think that is the number one move I would try to make if I'm the Clippers, because I'm saying, hey, LeVar's put it out into the universe. The Ball brothers on the streams multiple times have put it out into the universe that, hey, LA did us dirty. Let's go out and get the other team. So I would be curious to see what they could potentially do for LaMelo Ball.
I have a question for you. Why are you watching Ball Brothers streams?
I'm not. It's on Twitter.
Why is that
it's on Twitter. But hey, I'm a fan of LaMelo. I like LaMelo. I think LaMelo's, like I said, he's not long for Charlotte. I think he's a superstar. I'm curious to see where, like I said, where that can go. But if not, there's one other place. I'm curious to see how the bad blood has shaped out, but I think he would be a phenomenal basketball fit in San Antonio. I think if in a perfect world, I look at how that roster is constructed right now, I see what the Rockets did with Kevin Durant. I think the San Antonio Spurs are a better built team to trade for a guy like Kawhi Leonard. I think Kawhi with Wemby, I think that is exactly what Wemby needs.
Let me just say right now, there's no shot that happens. Popovich is the general manager of the Clippers now, basically. I mean, sorry, the Spurs now. He basically stepped down into a front office role where he's helping construct the roster. The way Kawhi Leonard left was just disgusting. It left a lot of bad taste in a lot of people's mouths, especially for a team organization that's done everything to sort of help him. He kind of just left them high and dry, which led to the bad spells that they were in where they weren't really competing. Remember, Kawhi Leonard was looked at as the future face of the franchise, and he was looked at as the next Tony Parker, right? The next Manu Ginobili, those type of guys that could sort of take that mantle and keep going. He chose that he didn't want that for himself. He said he wanted out by any means necessary. Okay, well, he landed in Toronto, a great place. Listen, the entire country of Canada embraced Kawhi Leonard. The entire country of Canada embraced Kawhi Leonard, and they said, hey, we'll take you in as one of our own. We want to win, yada, yada, yada. And we saw what happened, right? We saw what took place. They won a championship. And then after he won the championship, he spends 1 year, literally, it wasn't even a full year. Maybe it might have been a full year with them. And then he leaves. He leaves at the first chance he got. And they pulled out all the stops to keep Kawhi Leonard in a Toronto Raptors uniform. It just wasn't good enough. His mind, his heart was set on Los Angeles by any means necessary, even going to the Clippers when it was reported, hey, I want to go to the Lakers. I want to play with the Lakers. And well, I guess you reap what you sow. It is what it is. But this situation is just messy. All around. I think this situation is completely messy. I want to keep the conversation rolling from one NBA topic to another NBA topic. I want to move on over to the weird beef that's taking place right now on social media. I don't know if you saw it. Trae Young, Pat Beverly going at it over who's accomplished more, getting it out of the mud, so to speak. I think we got a video clip. Let's roll it.
I've talked to people who played in Atlanta. They don't want to play there.
Why?
They don't think he's a good leader. They don't think he's a good teammate. This is not coming from me, motherfucker. This is coming from Joe Blow over here. Trae, you can score all the points you want. You can make all the money you want. You can have all the leading assists you want. You can do all that. If you don't win, that shit won't matter. If you don't win, when you're retired, they're going to forget your name. Fast, too.
Tough defender, a great defender, and the accolades say that you were. But I promise you, anytime you was on the court with me, I was never scared of you. I was never scared of Patty Bev. I promise you. And as you can tell, Patty don't scare me now.
So I've got a couple of thoughts on that. Dan, I'm going to let you start us off with this. It was interesting him hearing Trae Young call Sweet Lemon Pepper Lou a Hall of Famer. I don't agree with that, but that's just me. What are your thoughts?
Man, first of all, let me just say, I love this. I love this. And maybe this is just a fan in me saying, hey, I love some conflict. I do. I think that the sports is built on rivalries. Sports is built on debating. Sports, for me, is built on questioning, and going head to head. And I'm a fan of a little bit of a debate. And, it was funny seeing these two because you can tell it clearly started with Pat Bev, right?
Mhm.
But I don't think he was intentionally targeting anybody. And Trae Young took it upon himself to go out there and tweet at Pat Bev. So for me, who is the instigator? It is Trae Young. Trae Young is the instigator because he's the one who quote tweeted Pat Bev. And this tells me everything I need to know. I think Trae Young is a phenomenal basketball player. And let me just say this. I think the Atlanta Hawks are a dark horse team in the NBA this season. But when I also hear what Trae Young was saying, he was trying to get under Pat Bev's skin. He was saying, in the clip, in the full 11-minute clip, he was saying, listen, anytime I stepped on the court, I was not scared of Patty Bev. And it's like, you are clearly trying to take a shot to get under his skin. So like I said, listen, Patrick Beverley is a well-respected NBA player. He's made his career over the course of 10-plus NBA seasons, but he was never a superstar. So if Trae Young has the opportunity to get in a back and forth with Pat Bev, 1,000% he's going to do it. And I think the biggest issue, Malik, I have with Patrick Beverley is he went on his podcast and said, hey, I heard from other players they don't want to play with Trae Young. And for me, that is a personal shot. That is something nobody should stand for. And that's why I respect Trae Young for going out and making that 11-minute video because of Pat Bev saying that, right? Maybe it's a little petty what Pat Bev was saying, but man, to go out there on the podcast and to say that I've heard from other players that they don't want to play in Atlanta. They don't want to play with Trae Young. Trae Young is not a winner. Pat Bev, you are asking for something. And like Liam said in the comment, Pat Bev's trying to stay relevant. Like, that is clearly a shot. And for me, that is certain stuff that you keep under wraps, right? But Pat Bev's in the entertainment business now. He's not in the NBA. And for me, that is where I look at it and I say, hey, if you're in the entertainment biz and you're trying to say stuff to get a clip and to stay relevant, that's cool. But like I said, that is clearly a shot. So if Patrick Beverley feels like Trae Young and makes an 11-minute video and is coming out and that's not relevant, I disagree with that. But like I said, Trae Young is the one that instigated this. But I believe that Pat Bev went up above and beyond. I don't think that he should have went out there and said, hey, Atlanta Hawks, players don't want to play with Trae Young, because for me, I feel like that's personal, especially if you were inside those circles once. So for me, I don't feel like Pat Bev would be cool with anybody saying, hey, I heard from Pat Bev's teammates, they hate him. They don't want to play with him, because I feel like that personal shot was totally unnecessary. But
You want to know what I think?
yeah,
I think Trae Young needs to get out his feelings. I think listen, I think at the end of the day, that comment wasn't necessarily pertaining to you. It was just pertaining to players playing hard in all-star games and yada, yada, yada. Who cares? But the fact of the matter is, it felt like Trae was waiting for this moment. It felt like there was some pent-up disdain, or I got to go back and see if these guys had any issues when they were on the court, or was there ever a moment where they jawed each other. But it almost felt like that Drake quote, bench players talking like starters, I hate it. And I think that Trae Young had a little bit of an issue with Pat Bev giving his 2 cents, saying, pretty much, you win play-in games and you stand on the table acting as if you won a championship. I won play-in games and I'm ready to move on to the playoffs. So, I think we're arguing, we're going back and forth over the stupidest things. Both of these guys, respectfully, in the grand scheme of things, haven't won a championship in their careers. Trae Young's career is still going. He has a lot to prove. You're going to have doubters. You're going to have naysayers. What's the difference between Pat Beverley saying something, or Shaq, or Charles Barkley, or some of these guys that are on NBA TV to say something? People are going to comment. People are going to speculate. People are going to have discussion about where they see you and where they see your game. And do they think you're a franchise uplifter? The fact of the matter is, I don't think Pat Bev was completely off bases. There were rumblings at one point that the Atlanta Hawks were thinking about trading Trae Young. So it's like, there's a lot that goes into it. I understand his frustration. I understand the pressure is mounting for a guy like Trae Young. But at the end of the day, the best way to shut guys up like that is to go out there and just do it. Like, that's what you got to do. Just go out there and prove yourself, prove that you're better than what they think you are, and prove that it's not about wearing assist titles. It's not about scoring titles. It's about, getting the job done. So those are my thoughts. Anything, last thing you want to add, Dan?
Yeah, the last thing is this, and my issue with Trae Young is, I do hate when players make it about themselves. Like, in this debate, it shouldn't be Trae Young versus Pat Bev. Like, listen, Trey, I understand Pat's the one that said it, but you're in the NBA right now. You have a chance to do something great right now. So for him to make the video, I respect him for rebuttaling what Pat Bev said, but to make it solely about him and Pat Bev saying, "Hey, you play with all these guys, you ain't like Trey, go out and play your game." Like you said, let the play do the talking. But I love it. I love a little controversy, and we'll see where this goes, because I feel like Pat's gonna respond soon, and we'll
of
see.
course. Who doesn't love? I mean, it's gonna help the podcast ratings. It's gonna make these things go up. So, keeping the conversation rolling. I don't love the question you posed, Daniel.
Yeah,
I'm gonna talk about it. I'm gonna talk about it, but I don't love the question you posed. It's about the Celtics.
Yeah,
are the Celtics? Should we expect the Celtics to tank? I don't like the word tank. Listen, I think that this is a big prove-it year for guys like Jaylen Brown. I think this is a prove-it year for guys for like Anthony Simons. I think, seeing the NBA power ranking poll obviously come out before the season, and the Celtics are ranked 13. You're going to have people that are going to be down on the Celtics. Why? Jason Tatum's going to be out for basically the entire year dealing with Achilles injury. Obviously, Jason Tatum's up and walking, doing a bunch of things that people are like, I don't know if you should be doing that already. But the fact of the matter is, I don't think that they're going to necessarily tank, but I do think that this puts into question how good Jaylen Brown is. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think for me, like the tanking question, once again, I'm never a fan of tanking. I don't think that they should. But for me, I just see too many people talking about it. Bill Simmons went on his podcast. Him, a Celtics fan, went on his podcast and said, "Hey, they should consider it. Like they should at least consider it." So for me, you should never consider tanking, but I do agree. This is an evaluation season. You are looking at your team and saying, "Hey, you should be able to have success with your current roster." But the truth of the matter is, Malik, this roster without Jason Tatum is not better than the Cleveland Cavaliers. This roster without Jason Tatum is not better than the New York Knicks. This roster without Jason Tatum is not better than, hell, even the Atlanta Hawks. So
what?
I don't think so. Without Jason Tatum right now, you look at it, I mean, your starting center is Luka Garza, who's quality, and I'm a fan of Luka Garza, but I don't think that this team right now is on the same level, especially early on in the season. Like,
have we gotten any resolution on the Al Horford thing?
No, not yet.
Still?
Not yet. And it's weird because it seems like the sentiment is he's gone from Boston. I would love him back. I would. But I look at this season for me, and like I said, what I think the tanking aspect is BS, is because you do have guys like Jaylen Brown. If you're considering tanking, trade Jaylen Brown. If that's the conversation, trade him. But you're not. You have Derek White, who's one of the best players, one of the most highly touted in the NBA. You have a lot of talent on this team.
Simons. You don't think they can win with Derek White, Anthony Simons, and Jaylen Brown?
What is it?
Because when you say I think you contribute to the culture a little bit.
Let me
This trading your second star, right? Who sometimes could play like your star.
Yeah.
Just because you have a losing season, what is that mentality? What is that going to do?
I didn't say they should trade him. No.
You said you said the mentality is tanking, then they should trade Jaylen Brown.
Yes.
To me,
yes,
that weakens the Boston Celtics if they were to trade Jaylen Brown. What does that do for the Celtics' future when Jason Tatum does get back? For me, I think this is why you signed them both. I think this is why you signed them both, because just in case one goes down, well, guess what? That other guy can step up. When you sign Jaylen Brown to the max contract you signed him to, you basically said, you know what? You are a superstar. If you're not 1A, you're 1B. That's what you said. So guess what? When you lose to Jason Tatum, is it going to suck? Yes. But this is the moment where you're expecting Jaylen Brown to step up. He's got the pedigree. He's got the championship pedigree. He understands what it takes to win. Hopefully, throughout this process, he's become a better leader too. Going through the whole debacle with the Celtics, I don't think trading Jaylen Brown under any circumstance should even be discussed. I think some of the moves that the Boston Celtics made, getting Anthony Simons, are moves to keep them afloat. Moves that are going to. I still think they could be for a championship. Are they going to be favorites? No. Is it going to be tough? Yes. But can you win with Jaylen Brown, Anthony Simons, and Derek White? That is what you paid them for. That is why those guys are. That's why those guys are in the spots that they're in. That's just my hot take. I think we're gonna find everything out about Jaylen Brown. If Jaylen Brown goes out there and shits the bed, then you can talk about trading him. Yeah. Then you can talk about moving on from him. Then you can say, you know what, we paid for a guy that we realize is just a Robin to Jason Tatum's Batman.
Well, yes, and I agree. That's what, like, Malik, I think for me, like, I'm not saying trade Jaylen Brown. I'm not. I'm a believer, and I'll get to that in a second. I'm saying, hey, if you feel,
Are you?
I am.
You
I
are
am.
believing
I
Jaylen Brown?
and
Okay.
respectfully,
Because I know we've had debates about that.
yes, respectfully, I also think he's better without Jason Tatum, and that's where I think that this is going to show. And I think that's the beautiful thing that the Celtics have, and that's the biggest question mark is, hey, how is it going to look when Jason Tatum gets back, right? Because he was hurt in April, May. So he's probably, if in a knock on wood, a healthy, best possible scenario, he's getting back March, maybe February. I think that this team can win. I think your goal is, if you can be around the 6th seed at least by the time Jason Tatum gets back, I'm happy with it. And I'm with you, the same thing. Anthony Simons, for me, I don't feel like he should be in any trade conversations. That's me. And I understand he's on a 1-year contract, but I think that dude can play. I think that dude is a phenomenal offensive scorer. I don't know how he fits with Peyton Pritchard. I don't know, but he is one of the best microwave scorers in the NBA, period. And you see what he did last year, multiple quarters with 20+ points. So for me, I'm excited to watch Celtics basketball. That's what I'm just ready to watch it. I don't think that they're going to tank. I think it's going to be a struggle, but I do think, Malik, I'm with you. I think Jaylen Brown is going to impress a lot of people because he can be the bona fide number one star.
Okay. Moving on, we want to get to our final NBA topic before we head on over to the NFL. There are rumors swirling right now that the Warriors might be entertaining a potential sign and trade for Jonathan Kuminga. That situation has not been resolved yet. We obviously saw Josh Giddey's situation dragged out, and it finally got resolved. I was hoping that Kuminga's situation would bring some clarity, honestly, last week, but we still haven't gotten that just yet. There have been teams that have potentially been flirted out there, teams like the Cleveland Cavaliers. Someone's even flirted the idea of Jarrett Allen being traded. Obviously, we know the Warriors need help at center. Kuminga could definitely be an asset for the Cleveland Cavaliers. What are your thoughts? What do you think that the Warriors should do? Because it's very clear that Steve Kerr and this Warriors regime are not believers in Jonathan Kuminga. Because if you were a believer in Jonathan Kuminga, if you were a believer in his upside, he'd be signed right now. And let me just say right now, when the guy gets extended minutes, he plays really, really well for them. Is he going to miss shots? Yes. Is he going to take bad shots? Yes. But name an NBA player in this current day and age that does not. For me, I feel like Jonathan Kuminga has been unfairly treated by the Golden State Warriors, and I'd like to see him move on to a team that potentially can get the most out of him. I know there's been even the Kings being flirted out there. But Daniel, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I've got a strong stance on this, Malik. I think it's Raps, and I like Kuminga. I think he is done in Golden State. I don't see a world where it works. I don't. He's gone head to head with Steve Kerr many times. And I don't think his play style right now, I don't think it works with the Warriors. The Warriors are a ball movement team. The Warriors are a share the rock team. The Warriors are a heliocentric around Draymond Green and Steph Curry. That is their game. And then you go in and you add Jimmy Butler to the mix. If Jimmy Butler is on this team, where does Jonathan Kuminga fit? He stated this offseason, hey, I can be the guy on the team. That is his belief. And I respect him. He feels like he can be a number one. He feels like he can be a number two. Newsflash, Jonathan Kuminga, it's not happening in Golden State. It's not. You are not the 1A over Steph Curry. You are not the 2A over Jimmy Butler. Number 3, you are not going to be possessing the rock over Draymond Green. It's not going to work. You have to be a role player around those guys. You have to be. And it's not going to work. So for me, if I'm the Warriors also, I'm not blaming Jonathan Kuminga. I'm blaming the Warriors. This is Steve Kerr's fault. This is their fault for not having a resolution. It is what? September 18th? You have a month until the NBA season, and your goal is to enter the season with the expectation, hey, maybe we sign him, but we're going to trade him by the trade deadline. How is that, something that is conducive to your success with Steph Curry? I think it's terrible management by the Warriors. I feel like they've mismanaged this entire youth movement that they've had. And I feel like they're trying to go in for one last push with Steph Curry, which I think that they can do, but they are at the moment actively ruining their chances because I don't think Jonathan Kuminga on this roster helps them to a championship because they're not going to give him that massive contract that he wants. So
let's discuss the teams that Jonathan Kuminga does make sense for. I've named out a few, Danny. What are some teams that you think Jonathan Kuminga could make sense for?
I agree with you on the ones you named. If I could throw out one more,
sure.
I think the Chicago Bulls make a lot of sense for Jonathan Kuminga. I don't know if it's as good of a return for the Warriors like Jared Allen. I think Jared Allen is the best you can get. Vucevic, and I think
Vucevic makes a lot of sense. You get a center who can do the pick and roll. You got to get a center who can also pop threes. You got to respect his game from the perimeter. I like it. Okay.
Yes.
Who else?
And like I said, I love the Bulls fit. And I like what Liam said. The Brooklyn Nets is an interesting one because like but that's the issue. Like if I'm the Nets, I'm not trading Claxton, but they might.
They don't use him. They don't use him. They don't respect that guy's talent. They don't respect him. That guy needs to go to a better team, man. You got him and Daron Sharp splitting time. It's ridiculous. Nick Claxton is one of the best defensive centers honestly, one of the best defensive centers in basketball. He's the one guy that I can look at. You can honestly say he can guard 1 through 5. He can guard 1 through 5. No questions asked. So I think that Nick Claxton is undervalued. I think he's underutilized, and I think he's disrespected. To be honest with you, I like to see that guy leave out of that situation in Brooklyn.
For sure. And I think that's the exact spot where Kuminga can thrive because they're rebuilding. You're going to get 35 minutes. You're going to get 20-plus field goal attempts. Go play with Michael Porter Jr. Show us what you got, Kuminga, because I think that in a nutshell, in that type of team, I think that's where he could have success. And I feel like he would grow as a basketball player because he would say, hey, maybe I am the guy, but we just won 25, 30 games. So maybe he tries to change his play style. At the end of the day, he deserves to get a bag because he is an extremely talented player. The Warriors just this is going on too long.
Can we have the real conversation? The Warriors suck at developing.
Terrible.
Like they developed Steph Curry, Draymond Green, Klay Thompson, obviously, but what do you have to show for beyond that? You almost ruined the career of Jordan Poole, right?
Well, they did.
But he's rebounded okay with the Washington Wizards. We had people talking that he didn't even belong in the NBA because this guy just lost all sort of any momentum he had with the Golden State Warriors, all through to altercation with Draymond Green, the whole 9 yards. But confidence is real, man. And you shoot down the confidence of a lot of these young players. To me, I want to know, what do we still have in Moses Moody? Right? Is there anything there? You couldn't find a way to make James Wiseman work either. I mean, there's a reason why you spend first-round picks on these guys. So to me, there's a lot of questions with the Warriors and the development of their guys. You got to wonder, did they hold on to their older players too long? Pods looks nice, but at points, Pods was struggling, and Pods also then was regulated to the bench at one point. He was flirted with the starting lineup, then flirted to the bench, a lot like Kuminga. So, at the end of the day, if you're going to believe in these young guys, you're going to spend first-round picks on these guys because I feel like they've made some really, really nice picks. Like Tyrone Jackson, what's the title?
Trace Jackson Davis, but he's getting
Davis.
benched.
He's getting benched. This is the guy I think that they have right now on their roster that can do the pick and roll, that can do the pop-up threes. He can do everything that you sort of ask him to do, but that guy's been regulated to the bench. You constantly would try out Kevin Looney, who has bad knees over that guy. It was a lot of decision making that I didn't think really made sense for a lot of their young players. So if you're a young player, you're on the Warriors, be prepared to ride the pine because you don't know when the opportunity is going to come for you. And when the opportunity does come from you, you better make the most of it. You better have an immediate impact right away because it's very clear Steve Kerr does not believe in building and developing young players.
And the last thing I'll say is you made the biggest point. I think Jordan Poole is the perfect example of this. There was situations, Draymond Green, I understand, but when you look at the season he had and you look at the playoffs he had on their championship run, Malik in the first series, 21 points a game against Denver. Second series, 17 points a game against Memphis. Third series, 16 points a game against Dallas. In the NBA Finals, he had 13 points a game against the Boston Celtics on 38% shooting from three. He was a huge part of their most recent championship, and that is an organizational fault as well as a little bit of Jordan Poole obviously shares some blame, but you've had talented guys in this building and none of the young guys have panned out in the past 3 years. It just hasn't worked.
Yeah. Like I said, I think at some point you got to look at yourself in the mirror and be like, okay. And I also think there's just a disconnect with young players or younger players, I would say. Because think about it, with even Jason Tatum and Steve Kerr had a weird issue in the Olympics where Steve Kerr didn't want to play him. He was basically just took a trip out there and didn't play. So it's one of those things where I think that Steve Kerr maybe doesn't know how to necessarily gel with younger players, and I think it rears its ugly head. Listen, I want to thank you guys so much again for tuning in to the morning show, making it a part of your regular routine. Give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, turn on post notifications so you guys don't miss when we go live or upload content. I want to move the conversation, my man. I want to talk about the lack of usage of first-round running backs. We got guys like 𝗪𝗓𝗡𝗏, Ashton Jeanty. I want to get your thoughts on this, man. Why do teams draft running backs in the first round? You spend a premium pick. Let's talk about a first-round pick. First-round pick is a premium pick. That is a guy that you're saying could be a franchise fixture. Now, you're hopeful the second-round pick could also be that. The third-round pick, you're hopeful they could be that. The fourth-round pick, anything after the first round, you're just grateful. Let's just call it what it is. Maybe after the second round, you're just grateful. But you're hoping that these guys could definitely pan out. You spend a first-round pick on a running back and you decide not to use him, and then you wonder why the offense might get stagnant at points. What are your thoughts on the lack of usage? Because this isn't the first time we've seen something like this. I could even point to the lack of usage of Bijan Robinson early on in his career. His last season with the Atlanta Falcons, we saw him not get those targets right away. But what are your thoughts on that, man?
It's fascinating because I think that there is a clear misconception amongst NFL teams versus what they are showing, right? I think the 𝗪𝗓𝗡𝗏 and even Ashton Jeanty, look at what he just said on social or in his press conference yesterday. He said, "Hey, you drafted me number 6 for a reason. I can handle the workload." He's not wrong. And I understand the thought process. One specific player, Travion Henderson, I will say he has been atrocious in pass protection. And that is, it was his biggest strength in college. I think he gets figured out very quickly. That is one point I can say, hey, if you think he's bad in pass protection, okay. Like maybe you bring in Ramondre Stevenson and you give him more snaps. I understand that. But the lack of touches all around, same thing, 𝗪𝗓𝗡𝗏. I don't believe that he is a superstar running back yet. I haven't.
He's a rookie.
For sure. What I'm saying, though, is I don't believe that, but I also didn't believe that they should have taken him there. If you are the Chargers and you take him in the first round over defensive tackles like Derek Harmon, over pass rushers like Mike Green, over pass rushers like James Pierce Jr., if you go that route, if you take him over a Malachi Starks, you've got to play the guy. And 𝗪𝗓𝗡𝗏 hasn't been getting the full touches. He did in week 1. He looked good, but as soon as Najee Harris comes back, what do you know? Najee comes, takes the snaps. And the same thing. You go look at Jeanty.
Sorry to cut you off. It's not just a Najee Harris thing.
Yes.
Because they both got 8 carries apiece.
Yep.
Right? Averaging 3 yards per carry. I get that.
Yeah.
I get why they said, hey, let's split the carries. I get that. But for me, when you draft a guy in the first round like 𝗪𝗓𝗡𝗏, who seems to be sort of what they sort of want to build their offense around. They want a guy that can, run through the tackles. They want a guy that can, handle the volume, as you alluded to. Well, giving him 8 carries in a game, leaves out the game for 24 yards, and then we're like, okay, that's it. That's it.
Yep.
But I think that's sort of dysfunction all along with with sometimes the Herbert-led offense. I have a concern about the lack of usage of the tight ends in the offense. I would hate to be a Justin Herbert tight end. I would hate to be that. But to me, it's just like taking the easy outlet. Sometimes not asking your quarterback to do too much. And I get it. He's playing very well this season. But that's just my continue.
You're right. And my frustration with this as a football fan, I miss the days of Ezekiel Elliott coming in right away, 20 carries, 25 carries. I miss the days of Washington, Alfred Morris. If you go look at his rookie stat line, Malik, 300 carries as a rookie. I miss that because especially in today's day and age, if you look at, running backs are worthless, you don't need to pay them. Okay, if you're going to do that, give them the rock in year 1. So I'm going to wait on the non-round 1 guys because I think Scatterbo, I think Quinshon Judkins, I think those guys deserve and should be getting 15 to 20 touches a game. But Jeanty and Hampton, I'm with you. Week 3, these guys should be seeing 15 to 20 touches regardless. Jeanty is that talented. And if you feel like you don't have the offensive line, that is your fault. You should have drafted Armand Membou in round 1.
Well, here's the thing. We got Liam in the comment section. We appreciate you, Liam, too. He's like, he said, and I quote, called Jeanty being a bust a year ago. I got to push back on that. I got to push back on that heavy because Ashton Jeanty was averaging 3.9 yards per carry, right? 11 carries he got in the game, only 3 more than Marion Hampton. Churned out 43 yards. And to me, I pushed back on Chip Kelly even more because here's my thought process. Your quarterback was struggling. Your quarterback threw 3 interceptions in that game. At what point do you say, hey, we're going to just ride it out with our running back? Because we need to be able to take some of the pressure off of our quarterback, off of our offense. And hey, luckily for us, we drafted a running back, a top 10 pick. Here's a guy that we believe is going to absolutely be able to do it for us. This is a guy that we believe is going to be able to take the pressure off of an offense. And be honest with you, Geno Smith, as much as people want him to be, he's not that franchise game-changing quarterback. He's not that. He is a game manager at best, and there's nothing wrong with a game manager. But understanding the strengths and the weaknesses of your quarterback is super important. You drafted Ashton Jeanty for moments like this, for games like this, so Geno Smith doesn't have to do too much. But Daniel.
Yeah, for sure. And I think looking at, obviously, Liam, I understand where he's coming from. He's been on that train. So it's like, hey, he believes that he's gonna take it all the way. The issue I have with that is Jeanty is one of the most talented running backs we've seen. Even hell, if you watch his rushes, those 18 rushes he's had, or 21 rushes in the NFL so far, 6 of them have popped. Like, he is breaking tackles. He is looking good. The offensive line sucks. And that is the one gripe I would have is, hey, if you are the Raiders and you bring in Jeanty, it is up to you to build that offensive line. And quite frankly, I think their offensive line sucks right now. So even what Bill Sparks just said, he said, hey, the issue with round 1 running backs, it's the amount you pay them. You come in, they're making top 25 money. If you don't give them the touches, it's a waste of cap and cash. Exactly. Capital, especially you use somebody in round 1, especially running backs, that is the position most in the NFL where they can come in and compete and contribute immediately. Maybe not cornerbacks, right? Maybe not edge rushers, maybe not defensive tackles. Those guys take 2 to 3 years to truly develop into superstars. We have seen running backs, Malik, time and time again. Saquon Barkley, so many guys, Bijan Robinson, come in day 1 and be superstars. I am not going to stand here for saying, hey, Jeanty and Hampton, those guys in round 1, they can't be top 5, top 10 running backs this season. You have to give them the ball, or else, like everybody's saying, it is a misuse of your draft capital, especially a top 6 pick.
Yeah, I definitely don't think the jury is out on anything. Bill Sparks says the other issue for round 1 of running backs. Did you already read that?
Somewhat,
Okay,
yeah.
Well, I think he made a great point. I thought he made a great point. Pretty much just said, the other issue is for round 1 running backs, the amount you pay them. Jeanty and Hampton coming off the street being paid top 10, 25 running back, but you want to bring them along slowly. It's a waste of cap/cash. Bill beautifully said. We obviously had Bill on the show before. Got to have him back on somewhere soon. And I love what Kyle Wright says. I don't think even giving a label. I don't think you can even give a bust label to a rookie. To running back in a rookie year. I agree with that. The jury is still out, obviously, but I don't think that these guys should be given that label, nor do they deserve that label because they're not even being given the ample opportunity to prove or debunk that. You know what I mean? So that's just my thoughts on that. Keeping the conversation rolling before we do. Guys, give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, turn on post notifications so you guys never miss when we go live. Remember, the morning show is live every single Monday, Thursday, and Friday at 10:30 a.m. Eastern time. As we bring you guys the latest news in sports, we have the post-game recap show for the Cincinnati Bengals happening directly after the Bengals game, and obviously State of the Jungle every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern time. Yeah, I want to move on from one NFL team to another. We talk about the lack of usage. Let's talk about the lack of usage of A.J. Brown in the Philadelphia Eagles offense. It poses this question. I think A.J. Brown's been absolute professional about this, but at what point do you say, I want more for my career? I already have a ring.
Mm-hmm.
I already have playoff victories. I've already been there. I know what it looks like. I know what it feels like. But at what point do you say, I consider myself one of the elite receivers in the league, and I want a chance to prove it game in and game out? Because guess what? The Philadelphia Eagles offense isn't allowing him to do so right now.
Mm-hmm.
Should the Eagles trade A.J. Brown, Daniel? What are your thoughts?
It's 2 parts. I think A.J. Brown is going to want out at some point.
Yeah.
And if a player wants out, as much as you can say no, at some point it is going to happen. So for me, when I look at this, the Eagles it is perfect. A.J. Brown in a vacuum is perfect. He is signed until 2029. He is signed for the next 4 years. A top 10 talent at the wide receiver position. You never let that walk out the door. But the problem is when a player becomes an issue in the locker room, And that is what AJ Brown, whether he likes it or not, he has caused problems. He has caused questions. He has caused controversy. You go and look at last year. It happened 3-4 occasions. He props out a book on the sideline. And what do you know? The media goes and they run with it. And it gets asked to Jalen Hurts. It gets asked to Sirianni. It gets asked to AJ Brown. It gets asked to Devontae Smith. That is a topic of conversation. Then, like you said, this dude, after the Super Bowl, he legitimately himself said, hey, I feel nothing. He went out and he said that. So that is a red flag for me. If a player comes out after the biggest moment, listen, he is able to do whatever the hell he wants. He has succeeded in his profession. He has made a lot of money. He is a top 10 player at his position. All credit to him. But at some point, he can look at himself in the mirror and say, hey, I'm going to do what's best for me. Now, I want targets.
He's earned that right. He's earned that right.
Yes.
To be honest with you.
And that is the problem I have with the trade conversation, because if I'm the Eagles, I'm looking at him and I'm saying, hey, if you lose AJ Brown, your passing game goes down a well. And right now they're winning. So it looks good. But Jalen Hurts, I've had this conversation. I think that he needs wide receivers like AJ Brown to sustain a long-term success at the NFL level. So I don't know if the Eagles, and it was also reported that they were receiving calls for him this offseason, and Howie Roseman smartly said no. I don't know if they're going to go out and trade him, but Malik, I think that this is going to be a conversation this offseason where I would not be shocked if he comes out and he requests a trade. And at that point, we saw Myles Garrett request a trade and it didn't end up happening, but that was because of a contract. This is not about a contract. This is about touches, and wide receivers are different. I'm telling you, Stephon Diggs has proved that time and time again. Wide receivers are different, and I think if a trade request comes this offseason, I think it could seriously result in something, because there's a chance that, hey, if your quarterback and wide receiver are not on the same page, you're riding with your quarterback 10 times out of 10, especially given the contract, especially given the position. So I would say nothing this season. I'm not even considering it at this point because they're winning. But I do think that this offseason, especially if they don't go out and have a dominant playoff run, I think I would be expecting a trade request at some point from AJ Brown.
Yeah, I mean, I think winning cures all, and winning makes everyone sort of put their pride, their ego aside. Yep. But I think at some point you also want legacy. At some point you want better for yourself, right? You want to feel that you're contributing, and maybe the emptiness feeling came from the lack of not feeling involved, not feeling like you've done enough. Like you're here, but it almost feels like a participation trophy because you don't feel like you made a real impact.
It's 35 yards in 2 games.
Yeah.
And that's on 6 receptions.
Right. And that's not what you traded the guy for. That's not what you extended the guy for as well. So I guess the jury's all out. I don't want to create fire, but I think it's interesting. I think that he's handled, let me just be clear. I think AJ Brown has handled it like an absolute pro. I think he's gone about his business as best as you possibly can. I think his presence does more for I think his presence just does it more for the offense of the Eagles than the latter, personally. I think than the Eagles offense does for him. And I'm really, really hoping that he can start to get those targets. I'm really hoping he can, really just start to prove that he is truly one of the best receivers in football, because it's hard to hear him on podcasts or other people on podcasts and them say, well, who do you think are the top receivers in the league? And he says, not counting myself. And it's like, dude, you don't have the numbers to back it up. And that's to no fault of your own. But at what point do you advocate for yourself? At what point do you say you want more? I don't know. Let us know down.
He's so good, man.
He is so good. He's very good. Let us know down in the comment section, and what you guys think. We have a question posed by one of our guests. Says, speaking of wide receivers asking for a trade, you think Tyreek will get traded if Miami keeps losing? Yes. The question is, who's willing to take that on? It's got to be a contending team, right? Or else he'll be kicking and screaming. It's got to be a team that he maybe has familiarity with. It's got to be a team that probably has Patrick Mahomes at the quarterback position. It has to be probably the Kansas City Chiefs. And God knows they certainly need it. We'll see how Xavier Worthy looks when he comes back. He's coming back, obviously, Sunday night against the New York Football Giants. We'll see if the offense still looks good. To me, I think they're rushing him back a little bit too soon, personally.
Worthy?
Yeah, I think they're rushing back a little too soon. Separated shoulder. I don't know if you're going to get the production. I think there's also the contact concern, right? How are you going to do on first contact, right? Mm-hmm. Is he going to be on the snap count? These are questions. These are real questions, right? So, we'll see exactly Kyle Wright said, out of the game I saw against the Chiefs, AJ Brown was used to pick up those 5 to 6 yard first downs. Yeah, but we're talking about overall production. We're talking about actually him getting more involved with the offense, not just picking up first downs when you need him to, right? He sees himself as a wide receiver, one in the National Football League, one of the best. So you have to feed him. You have to get him more involved in the offense. That is what he is asking for. That is what he's clamoring for. He wants a chance to prove all of that. Liam said, despite him not having a great year, I honestly think he isn't a top 10 receiver. That's interesting.
Yeah, it's an interesting take. Like you can make the take. For me, I think he's in that conversation solely because of he may not be the crispest route runner, but this dude, you just look at, his consistency, 5 1,000-yard seasons, and you look at what he did last year, his ability to make big plays happen. He had 6 games with reception of 40 plus receiving yards. So he's a big time player. So I think he's definitely in that conversation for top 10.
Kyle says they are desperate, Malik. They don't have a choice. You always have a choice. And that's, players' health is extremely important. So we'll see exactly what happens with 𝗬𝗎𝗻𝗓𝗓 when he does get back. I don't believe in rushing players back from an injury prematurely. I just don't believe that, especially a guy that was already asked because he was a smaller guy, how would he hold up in the National Football League? So we'll see. Again, not my problem, but it is worth talking about. If you guys could do us a favor, give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, turn on post notifications so you guys don't miss when we go live or when we upload content as well. I want to get to our final topic, the one that is actually, let's get to our Dolphins Bills bets for tonight, and then we'll get to the Joe Burrow conversation. Daniel, give me some of your favorite bets for tonight's game.
I love this game. I love the AFC East matchup. I think that this is a matchup where this could be props galore, and it could also be a blowout. So there's a couple things. First off, if you guys want a full best bets, you guys can go down to the description. We've got every single day. NFL and NBA is coming up, and that's typically our bread and butter. I look at Tua Tagovailoa, first off, throwing interception. I'm hammering that. He's thrown 3 interceptions so far this season. He's leading the NFL or top 3 in turnover-worthy plays. They are going to be playing from behind, or if this is a close game, they're still going to be passing the rock because their offensive line is not top 10 in the league. So Tua to throw an interception, I am a massive, massive fan of. You could get that around -130, I believe, on DraftKings. A couple other things I like. I like Malik Washington on the Dolphins. I am a huge fan of this play. Malik Washington is their 3rd wide receiver. Jalen Waddle was banged up all week. He's going to play, but he's still injured. You look at what happened the first 2 games. Malik Washington was used in the jet sweep game. He was used in the motion game. He is somewhat of a mini Tyreek Hill. When Tyreek goes out the game, Malik takes his place. So I think Washington's over receiving yards and rushing yards because, like I said, he's had 4 carries so far this season. He's had both games go over 7 rushing yards. And as a receiver, he's seeing the targets. He is their slot wide receiver. The Bills have done a phenomenal job in the past of the boundary wide receivers. So Tyreek, Jalen Waddle. I think Malik Washington, you're getting 60% of the snaps out of him. 30 rushing plus receiving yards, I think, is an absolute steal. And my final one, or the one I absolutely love the most, Malik, 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, the starting running back of the Miami Dolphins. You're telling me he's not scoring a touchdown today? In 4 games against the Buffalo Bills in his career, he scored in every single one. And not just that, in 2 of those games, he had 2+ touchdowns. And when I look at 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, this is a guy who is seeing a ton of targets. He had 7 receptions in his last matchup against the Bills. And when you look at this offense, Malik, he's being split out wide. He's used in the rushing game. He's used in the screen game. He is the check down for Tua. Whenever Tua gets a little frantic, look straight to 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, and that is his target. Hell, in the red zone, 2 times in the past 2 games, he's gotten targeted in the red zone on a quick design screen. So I look at 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 going up against the Bills, who are without Ed Oliver, the same Ed Oliver who forced a fumble against Derrick Henry, the same Ed Oliver who is a top 5 PFF graded defensive tackle, at least was in week 1. And I look at the Bills, who are without their starting linebacker, Matt Milano, and I see a world of opportunity for 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏. So I know I was a little long-winded there, Malik, but I am a huge fan of A-Chain. I like his receptions. It is high at 5.5, but I'm telling you, this guy is on the field a ton. He is Tua's favorite target as a check down. And when Tua gets frantic, he goes straight to A-Chain. I am a huge fan of that.
Okay, so you cooked. You cooked.
I
I'm gonna give you guys a play that I'm really feeling right now. Dalton Kincaid over 3.5 receptions. I like that. You guys know I'm the tight end whisperer. I also would sprinkle Dalton Kincaid anytime touchdown plus 285. Sneaky good play. I think I really like. What about Keon Coleman to score anytime touchdown?
I love that.
I love that play. But guys, I'm gonna give you a play right now that has hit. Listen to me. I want everybody to listen up. I want everybody to listen up really quickly. I'm gonna give you guys a play that I usually would save to the Patreon. This play that I'm about to give you, Marissa, I want you to clip this, has hit 14 out of 15 games. It has hit 14 out of 15 games played against the Miami Dolphins. And that's Josh Allen over 1.5 passing touchdowns. That play has hit 14 out of the last 15 games. Run to the bank. That play is going to cash tonight. Dolphins have a depleted secondary. I don't think that they can deal with the Bills' passing game. I actually think Josh Allen puts together a 4-touchdown performance today. I really believe that. He didn't do a whole lot in the passing game against the Jets last week. The Jets always often play him tough too. It's funny because last week when we were talking about the props, I said I would kind of stay away from Josh Allen passing touchdowns against the Jets because he struggled against them. But against the Miami Dolphins, he has hit this prop 14 out of the last 15 games. Daniel, I don't even know why it's this low. I really think his touchdown prop should be at 2.5.
Mm-hmm.
I really believe that. I'm going to go as far as to say I think Josh Allen throws 4 touchdown passes tonight.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that. I think he is going to do something really cool.
Mm-hmm.
There are people out there that think the Dolphins are going to win this game. I'm not one of them. And the reason why, because I like a good upset. It's in Buffalo, right? But I also just think, on top of that, I just think that the Buffalo Bills passing game is going to be too much for this depleted Miami secondary. That's what I believe. So run to the bank. We hope that you guys cash. Look down below. It says subscribe to the Patreon below. Subscribe to the Patreon below. We hope that you guys do because, again, we've got some cool plays that are going to make you guys some money. We've had some profitable weeks. And I'm looking forward to tomorrow's show, Fantasy Football Fridays, but we also give you some of our best bets for NFL, week 3 now. It's crazy, right? It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy. All right, let's talk about the elephant in the room. I've seen from national pundits, people talking. It's been a hot topic to mention Joe Burrow with Andrew Luck. That has me feeling very conflicted, to be honest with you, because I feel like that's a little bit disingenuous, to be honest with you. I don't know. I'm going to let you start this one off, Daniel. But the question is very simple. Is Joe Burrow the next Andrew Luck?
It's tough. I'm going to say no. And what I'm going to say no, my biggest point in this is I'm not a believer of predicting a guy to retire. And I think that's the biggest question. There are similarities. I understand, and we can talk about it. But the retirement is where it comes into play. Andrew Luck, in my opinion, and I'm sure everybody believes this, but if he would have kept playing, he still would have been extremely productive. I'm not of the camp that Joe Burrow is just going to pack it in. I'm not of the camp that this is it. And I'm not of the camp hey, he's done if he gets one more injury. I think that there's obviously serious concern and there's serious questions about it. But the retirement is where I have to push back because I believe in Joe Burrow's mental makeup. I believe that he understands what's at stake. And for me, that's where my initial pushback is, hey, this guy is not retiring yet. His story is still unwritten. Now, flipping to the other side where it is concerning is the missed opportunities of Joe Burrow, right? And I'll go as far as to say he's had more missed opportunities in his career than Andrew Luck had in his entire career. Andrew Luck missed one NFL season. Andrew Luck played in the rest of his NFL seasons. Joe Burrow has missed at this point, if he missed this entire or most of the season, he would have missed 3 of the 6 regular seasons that he's had the ability to play in at the NFL level. That's where it gets concerning because you look at other quarterbacks in the NFL, you look at Lamar Jackson, and we can just talk right now, but Lamar, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen. Josh Allen's never missed a game, I believe, in his NFL career. That's the biggest concern. Andrew Luck, I understand why people are making the comparison because it's probably the only comparison that we have of a number 1 overall pick missing as much time when they were still at their peak. You got guys like Robert Griffin III who had flashes, but they weren't as consistent as Joe Burrow or Andrew Luck. You've had flashes of guys in the past, but they weren't as consistent as Burrow or Andrew Luck. So for me, I understand why this is a talking point because comeback player of the year.
Yeah.
The conversation is, is he going to win a 3rd comeback player of the year?
Yeah.
But for me, his story is still unwritten. Andrew Luck never made it to a Super Bowl. Andrew Luck never won a Super Bowl. And these are things that are, while Burrow's still in the NFL, it is still possible. And for me, I'm not going to write that story because it's not written yet. And I don't think Joe Burrow is done yet. So that's where I push back. But like I said, I understand the similarities. And I think it is fair to say by him missing 3 of 6 seasons, and let's say, knock on wood, let's say this season, he isn't able to come back. His career through 6 games could be looked as a disappointment to what the expectation was. Because the expectation for me and what I've seen out of him is, hey, this guy is a Super Bowl caliber quarterback and a guy who I believe it would be a tragedy if this guy were to end his career within the next 2 years because of how talented and how special he is. Because like you said, for me watching football, I don't know of a mental makeup. I think it is fair to say Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Aaron Rodgers, Andrew Luck, Joe Burrow. I think he could belong in that category when it comes to pure quarterback play. And it would be a tragedy if we don't get to see that guy late into his 30s. So
keep going.
Yeah. So looking, I mean, like you said, going on a little bit more of the negative route, I will say, like I said, it sucks because the truth is right now, whether we like it or not, this guy is injury prone. That's the truth. You go look at, like I said, Tom Brady missed 1 NFL season due to injury in his 20+ years. The guys, his contemporaries right now are not missing seasons. And that is the biggest concern. For as much criticism as we can give a guy like Jalen Hurts, there is a case that people can make that Hurts is more accomplished than Joe Burrow is in his NFL career. And that's the part that is scary because we can say as much as, hey, Joe Burrow on the field is one of the most talented quarterbacks. But sometimes, and this is in the debate standpoint, sometimes the numbers don't lie. So
I'm gonna discuss this, and I just wanted to gather myself before I, obviously discuss this to a degree, because I think that there's a difference between Joe Burrow and Andrew Luck. Andrew Luck, when he came into the league, he was probably one of the most highly regarded players, prospects coming into the NFL draft. He was looked at as the future GOAT. I'll never forget one time we were seeing I was watching an ESPN basically PowerPoint that was basically talking about Andrew Luck. They were predicting Andrew Luck's trajectory and what they saw him being. In that trajectory, they had him being a 6-time Super Bowl champion, a 3-time NFL MVP, and a first ballot Hall of Famer in that trajectory. This was probably his 2nd, 3rd year in the league. They were doing this. And I get it. I get it. When you discuss Andrew Luck and Joe Burrow, I think the context is extremely important. Let's start off by saying this. Joe Burrow has never had the offensive line that Andrew Luck has had. And I think it's really bad, and I think it's malpractice to mention these two in the same sentence when one has been given the bare minimum and the other hasn't. We're going to talk about that. His starting offensive linemen that year were Anthony Costanzo, Quentin Nelson, Ryan Kelly, Braden Smith, Mark Glowinski. Sorry, I'll make sure I pronounce the name right. In that, Costanza had a PFF grade the year prior of almost an 80, 78 and a half. Quentin Nelson, 81 to nobody's shock. Ryan Kelly, a 75. Braden Smith, 72. Mark Glowinski had a PFF grade of 73. Those are outstanding numbers for offensive linemen. Your entire offensive line, meaning, or at the very least, for average or above average. I think when you look at the Andrew Luck's play style, Andrew Luck was a little bit of a comeback kid, right? He was a guy that put the team on his shoulders. He could run the ball if necessary. He took unnecessary punishment. He would get hit. He was known for tapping defensive lineman on the head and like, hey, good hit. Good hit. That was a great job. And people are like, this guy is an absolute psycho. I want to talk about Andrew Luck, his career history a little bit, if I can for a second. So Andrew Luck, 2012, 2014 drafted, had no issues at all playing. 2015, he sprained his shoulder, torn labrum in week 3. He had a lacerated kidney, torn abdominal muscle, out for the rest of the season, torn rib cartilage. This happened in week 3, but it wasn't reported until after the season. He had a sprained AC joint in his right shoulder in the offseason due to snowboarding incident. From 2016 to 2017, he had a concussion, dealt with a shoulder issue until he got surgery in January of 2017 that sidelined him until that sidelined him for the entire 2017 season. In 2018, he won Comeback Player of the Year. 2019, calf strain, sat out most of OTA, ankle issues, retired in August before the season. I don't know if I also mentioned in there, he had an injury due to a snowboarding incident as well. So I think that those situations that Joe Burrow's faced versus what he's faced have been drastically different. We're talking about Joe Burrow, a freak ACL tear, MCL tear, basically tore up his entire knee as rookie year, right? Then we're talking about the wrist issue where he ripped up ligaments in his wrists, which prevented him from playing. And obviously now we're talking about the turf toe, right? Those are drastically different things. I think one of the things when it comes to Joe Burrow and him as well, it was always talked about how Andrew Luck didn't need football. He didn't need football. He had other avenues that he could have potentially done outside of football, but he done so because he was good at it. He was talented at it. These are Andrew Luck's words, not mine. The reason why Andrew Luck stopped playing football, yes, the injuries played a part, but he also fell out of love with playing football. It became like a painful obligation rather than a joy for Andrew Luck. That's what he talked about. He talked about how he lost joy, the pressure lifestyle, the demands of being an NFL quarterback, including the need for intense confidence and constant focus. Right? While he loved football, he didn't love the act of playing quarterback in the National Football League. And it seeped into his private life as well. He had a hard time being all in, had a hard time giving everything to the sport and being the quarterback of the Colts. Let's just call it what it is. I don't think Joe Burrow and Andrew Luck have the same mentality. It was often stated that Andrew Luck didn't need football. It's actually different for Joe. He doesn't necessarily need football, but the guy is wired different. He wants to be a great. He wants to prove it to himself. He wants to prove it to everyone that, hey, you know what? I am who people say I am, or people thought that I was. I don't think it's fair to compete them because the fact of the matter is I don't think that Andrew Luck loved football the way Joe Burrow loves football. And I thought that was extremely evident how he walked away. And to no fault of his own. Listen, you wanted to hang it up. You wanted to say enough was enough because there were other things that you wanted to do. Clearly, he still loves the game of football because he's still around it with Stanford. But I don't think their mentality is the same. And I think that's what separates Joe Burrow from a lot of quarterbacks. So to answer that question, I don't think Joe Burrow is the next Andrew Luck. I don't. He has not shown that just yet. The injuries are concerning. We've spoke at a nauseating pace this week at some of the things that have contributed to the Joe Burrow injuries. Could be scheme, right? Could be adjusting, could be adapting. But I think when we bring up Joe Burrow, right? And I think when we bring up Andrew Luck, we got to talk about their love for the game of football. We got to talk about what separated them from each other. That's no secret. And I think that's the real. I think that's the real conversation people should be having. It's easy to pinpoint Andrew Luck because guess what? He's probably the only real guy we have to compare it to. A quarterback that was on the top of the mountain, so to speak, and just decided to retire abruptly. But a lot of it just had to do with his love of the game. And talking with some people from the Colts organization had a little bit to do with some other stuff. Some stuff that I just don't think it's my business to probably talk about on the show. But there's more to that. There's more to that story. There's a reason why Andrew Luck took a step away, not only just from football, but from the limelight. He went ghost for a while. And when he popped back up with Stanford, where he went to. But there's a reason to it. I don't think their situations are the same. I don't think Joe Burrow's the next Andrew Luck. We're hoping for Joe Burrow's recovery in this whole situation. We'll see exactly what happens. But, the Bengals got to find a way to stay afloat throughout this process, man. They got to find a way to stay afloat throughout this process. Listen, that's all the time that we have for the morning show. We want to thank you guys so much for tuning in. I want to thank you guys so much for making this show a part of your regular routine. We hope that you guys give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, turn on post notifications so you guys don't miss when we go live or when we upload content from the TWSN studios. We'll be live again tomorrow for Fantasy Football Fridays and discussing some of our favorite matchups for Week 3's game and giving you our best bets. We hope to see you guys there. Remember, there's only one way you should be waking up, talking sports, enjoying the conversation, and that is the right way.
This is TWSN. You ain't heard about us yet, well, you better.